Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, everybody. I know I'm not one of the normal Toronto people, but I come in peace. I swear I even put a Leafs jersey. No, I put a Leafs shirt on. I'm not going that far. I'm not going that far. But welcome to Game Over Toronto. I am Kaya Antic. I am usually a host for the Game Over Vancouver show. But I'm here to chat with y'all tonight. Which I mean, I guess it is really night over there for you guys because it's just barely turning 7 p.m. here. So, shout out 4 p.m. games. It's 4 p.m. my time. I'm trying to turn my light down and okay. I could not find the little remote. All right. Yeah, so a team that wins in overtime. I'm not used to talking about that. But yeah, the Leafs beat the Philadelphia Flyers 3-2 in overtime. And let's get with the help of some defensemen scoring, which we will get into that. Before we talk a bit about more about that, the game, shift into hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your new source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max Van Oot, Daphne Malbeuf, and Kevin Laramie every Tuesday and Friday for your fill on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon. Head to our website, thegameovernetwork.com slash thegameovernetwork.com for more. 7 p.m. here, just got back from Capilano Suspension Bridge. It's pretty good. Capilano's nice. I haven't been probably since I was in high school, but it is very pretty. I haven't been to Lynn Valley one yet. This is if you're watching from Toronto, I apologize. This is kind of niche Vancouver talk. Um Southern Ontario is 10 p.m., which earlier yeah. Um no, the Leafs game, yeah, it was a manageable 4 p.m. out here on the West Coast. At least it wasn't like yesterday when the Rangers played at 9 a.m. PST because they were playing the Capitals, which was I woke up at 9 a.m. to watch the Rangers lose 7-4. It was exciting. I'll give them that. Anyway, to the Leafs and the Flyers. So the Leafs are coming off of I it was 6-4. It was a 6-4 win. I'm just going to double check so I'm not losing my mind. Wait, what? Oh, I hit the wrong button. I was like, it was showing me games from last week, and I was like, what is going on? Yeah, it was a 6-4 win against the Bruins. So, the big tough Bruins, they're usually, well, they're the big rivals. I wouldn't say they're big tough right now because they're struggling a bit. I mean, they're now on a 4-game losing streak thanks to the Leafs last night and the Islanders and noted Canucks legend Bo Horvat scoring an OT. So the Bruins are on a 4-game slide. It's good news for Toronto and good news for Vancouver too. Just you know, in the morale of it. Um, I still haven't gotten over that one year. Anyway, it starts off a little bit rough, which you wouldn't want to see so early on, or just Tyson Forrester, quick wrist shot gets past Dennis Hill to be in net. So could have had that one back. I'm not usually one that likes to blame the goaltender. Obviously, Hildeby's in because of the injury to Anthony Stolarz. So there's that. It's either him or Matt Murray, and I feel like Hildeby might just have the edge because he's younger. Um, let's be honest here. Yeah, he could have had that one back, but from then on, he had a 938 save percentage tonight. Philadelphia, he only allowed 2 of the 32 shots against him, so pretty good showing for the young. I think he's young. I don't want to mischaracterize that just because he's. Let me check that. Let me check. I was like, okay, yeah, he's very young. He's 23. I said this about She Loves out here in Vancouver. That's like a toddler in goalie years because goalies take longer to develop than skaters. So, yeah, young goaltender had a good show against a Philly team, which they're not bad. They've had some rough stretches. They've also had some good stretches. I feel like they're evolving more into like a middle of the pack team. Yeah. I mean, the Metro is also wide open right now because the President's Trophy winners from last year decided to just go to the bottom of the division. So, there's that as well. Anyway, that first one gets past him. But then not a lot happens, just a few who's too old to play professional sports. They're all young. Fair enough. I mean, I'm calling him young, he's still older than me. But yeah, that's with all these rookies now, I'm just like, oh wow. Like Macklin Celebrini was 10 in 2016. I was in high school, that does not feel right. Anyway, just 40 under 40 seconds later, if my math is correct, I believe it is. I'm looking at it. 38 seconds. Correct me if I'm wrong. 38 seconds later, Matthew Nyes with his 15th of the year from Tanev gets the shot on. Matthews tries to get it past Fedotov. Doesn't go. Goes eventually once Matthew Nyes gets on it because apparently he just can't stop scoring. And it's a tie game. It was honestly really good. His hat trick last night, if I mean I'm assuming this is Game Over Toronto. I'm assuming that you've seen the hat trick. Um, all three were like bangers. And then this one, it was it was still very, very nice. Less of a banger than a couple of those last night, but still, he goes on a stretch of not scoring in what did I say, 12 games? He did not score a lot, and then he goes and scores 4 in literally 24 hours. So, I mean, just a little over 24 hours, but still insane. Matthews also gets the assist, and so does Chris Tanev. Speaking of Canucks legendary defenseman, nearing the final minute of play in the first, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who has only scored once this year, and the Leafs, they had their first goal since, I can't remember if it was like November 5th or December 5th from last year. Or it might have just been November. It took the defense a long damn time to score, and they finally got a goal last night with Jake McCabe's first of the season against the Bruins. Oliver Ekman-Larsson with his second of the season scores incredible one-hand poke. Honestly, why couldn't he have done that here? That's just my opinion though. He's definitely evolved more as a player over the last few years, and he's a veteran player, so like, I mean, it's a good thing. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, damn, who is that? And then they were like, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and I just had to sit there for a second because I'm like, that's not the same guy I watched here. But you know what? Good for him. Happy for him. Lawrence and Dewar get the assists on that goal, and it's 2-1 Leafs, and Leafs hold that lead for another period and a half, but something in between happens there. Garnet Hathaway, who is like, I feel like people forget that he's kind of a rat at times. I don't know if that's just my personal opinion, but it seems that he's always causing something on the ice when he plays. So he ran into Dennis Hilleby in net. Jake McCabe, who decided he did not like that. That makes sense. You don't want some I don't want to say some rando, because like he's not, but like a guy running into your goalie, you're gonna go after him in a game when their team's down a goal. Like, yeah, because hockey, you know. So he puts a big check on Hathaway, knocks him to the ice, and then just kind of keeps hitting him, but then waits for Hathaway to get back up so they can fight. They fight, and McCabe goes down, and his head hits the ice, and Hathaway lands on top of him. Um, which isn't the best. I mean, it's obviously not the best thing when you're fighting when you don't necessarily need to. You've already kind of made your point with checking him to the ice already. And you're hitting him again and again, and then he gets back up, and you're fighting and getting unnecessary penalties. That's a whole other thing. It's another thing when you hit your head on the ice and the other, professional hockey player, giant man, lands on top of your head. Yeah, Jake McCabe looked a little stunned. This was 6 seconds left in the first period, and Jake McCabe did not return to the game. So he has been pretty good defensively for the Leafs on the pairing with OEL, and yeah, they were, I don't want to say struggling, because the Leafs they pulled off the win, and they had some pretty good, it was a pretty evenly matched game in my opinion, but the Leafs didn't back down when they were down a man. I've seen teams back down when they're down a man. I'm a Canucks fan. Just, yeah. Um, but yeah, I think, like, obviously, I hope the best for McCabe. He didn't return to the game. They announced it. I mean, he was gonna get called even if he didn't look kind of like dazed and had a bit of trouble getting back up. I think he would have still been called back for concussion protocol reasons. But it was headed to intermission soon anyway, so who knows? But yeah, so special teams weren't exactly. I mean, the penalty kill for both sides was on point tonight. I mean, the Leafs only got one power play, and I don't believe they got a shot off either for that one. So, bit of work to do there, but they also killed all three of Philadelphia's power plays. So, there was that. On to the second period. At 11:08, Scott Lawton gets the goal off of a giveaway from William Nylander. Yeah, gets Nylander. It's Hildeby goes behind his net, passes the puck up to Nylander. Not entirely sure what Willie was doing there, but he turns it over to Sean Couturier, who then in turn, or did he pass it? Sorry, I know he turned it over, and it was all hunky dory for the Leafs until that happened. Yeah, he passed it over to, or it skips past him. It goes to Couturier. Couturier passes to Lawton, and Lawton scores for his ninth of the year. And then it's 2-2. It's tied going through the third, going into overtime. There was no, I mean, after that, it was just kind of the Leafs trying their best to get their lead back, and in that turn taking penalties, but they only took a couple. So David Kampf holding against Michkov, who almost scored in overtime. So, and he scored, I think, 3 overtime winners for Philly this season. So it's a good thing that they stopped him from doing that. But then in the third, Max Domi takes kind of an unnecessary elbowing penalty against Garnet Hathaway. But you know what? It's just rat on rat crime at that point. So on to overtime. About halfway through, there were some good chances for Philly. Obviously, Matvei Michkov. But the Leafs, I think, had the upper hand, and they did in the end, as Matthews gets it to Riley, and Riley scores for the first time in a very long time. Vancouver's Morgan Riley. Or is it? I think he's from West Van or North Van. One of the two Vans, because they're very different. It's like if you say you're from Toronto but you're from Mississauga. I think that's what it would be like. Yeah. because Mississauga is still the GTA, whereas North Vancouver, sure, it's a Vancouver's in its name, but it's not like the same thing as Vancouver. It's very confusing, but I think that's something that this area has in common with the GTA because everything is either Metro Vancouver, but then it's also, or the GTA, or it's not whatsoever, but it's also not whatsoever. Like, there are multiple, I think North Vancouver has two North Vancouvers, and I think there's also two Langleys, which is further east. It's a mess. It's a mess everywhere. Um, might be the two big cities in Canada that have to deal with this. I don't know if Montreal has the same issue, but who knows? Maybe the Bell Center counts as its own city. I don't know. It was a huge character game for Toronto. Yes, yeah, it was. They definitely showed some fight, and if you told somebody that they were on the back half of a back-to-back, and last night, especially after, going 6-4 against the Bruins and the back and forth that game was, you honestly probably couldn't tell. Like, for sometimes you can see, like, physically on the ice, the team, they're more tired, they're more sluggish, they come out stronger in the first period and then taper off as the game goes, but the Leafs kept the pressure on throughout the 25 minutes. um, and yeah, the Leafs did not give up. I don't know if that's because of their captain and Austin Matthews returning. I don't know if they kept that fight on because they wanted to hold something on for McCabe, who went out early in the game, well, in the first period. But yeah, I think they kept the pressure on. You could not tell that a lot of these players had played an entire game yesterday. Which, yeah, I think is a huge testament to their team strength, basically, because usually if you're on a back-to-back, I kind of thought we were getting those vibes in the first period, because, they scored twice, and then I was like, okay, so now they're gonna slow down in the second and third, but they just kept, yeah, sure, Philly ties it up in the second, but I think they kept a good, strong front, let's say. All right. Before we get into the second period, talking a little bit more about Matthews and just kind of resiliency when it comes to, I'm not say playing with depth, but having to, like, when dealing with injuries, because obviously they have Stolarz is out, Matthews was out for a while and he just came back, and then there's also McCabe is now a big question mark. I don't know if anything has been released about that yet. I just got a notification from my fantasy thing that said he was day to day. So, I would assume he's out for a little bit, but yeah, before we go into that, Game Over Network is an independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode, you'll find a link to our Patreon page, and we're also working on a page through LaRouche, a crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec. For LaRouche, we're aiming to raise $15,000, and if we hit that goal, we'll gain access to government grants that will allow us to employ more people. If you have any ideas for what you'd like to see as giveaways from these crowdfunding efforts, let us know in the comments on Bluesky, Instagram, or our Discord server. Alrighty. So the Leafs are currently 2.3 mil over the cap, but, like, that's fine. Honestly, who cares about the cap at all? They do have two players already on LTIR, in Yanni Hakanpää and Kallion Croak. And then they also have IR. Why am buried cap on Matt Benning? Okay. They also have Anthony Stolarz on IR. Expected return is end of January. He went out. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks. After undergoing a procedure to remove loose body from his knee. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming something like muscle related, likely, or just something body something was in his knee that shouldn't have been either detached or there in the first place. But yeah, he's out 4 to 6 weeks, and he was putting up quite the goaltending clinic. With uh the Leafs this season. But they had Joseph Woll in net, and Stolarz being injured breaks my heart. Yeah, I think referred to as a pebble. Okay. I don't know if he was like Viking or something, but yeah, that's something. Um, yeah, Stolarz being injured. Yeah, I mean, I love goalies, so hurts my hurts my heart too. But he was doing really well, and then gets a pebble apparently stuck in his knee. So I'm assuming it's not like a real like rock pebble that you get in like a shoe. It'd be kind of funny if it was. More questions would arise, but it makes sense if it's like a bone fragment or something. I don't know. I didn't take biology past grade 9, so I am far removed from that. Or grade 10. I didn't really have a grade 10 science teacher. That's another story. Um yeah, so Stolarz is out. Woll he did put up a pretty good performance, made some really nice saves last night in the battle between him and Swayman in the net, which I say it was a goaltending battle. It was 6-4 in the end, so looks a little bit more like a goaltending nightmare. But he did make some good saves. Strange considering it's not a Vancouver synopsis. Yeah, well, it's not a Vancouver synopsis because it was a win. Yeah, if you're wondering how the Canucks are doing, it's not good. Um, yeah. Joseph Woll, he's had some pretty good performances this season. But the issue with having Woll in a lot of these games is the likelihood of him getting injured, because I feel like it's a different thing. It's always a different thing with this guy. He's been injured twice this season, if I can remember correctly. But yeah, so Joseph Woll is made of glass, essentially, which means that when he plays, he can't play the back-to-back like Kevin Lankinen did in Vancouver. And then, I mean, I'm not saying that the one goal he let in was his fault. It was the anyway. They had Kevin Lankinen play both games in a back-to-back. So, I mean, he had to come in because Demko got taken out by his own defenseman, but yeah. Um Poor Demko, as he established a reputation in this market, honestly, yeah. It's a big conversation is should we trade Demko and keep Lankinen? I don't know. Vancouver is once again a goalie graveyard, but I don't want to think about them right now. Yeah, Woll basically he can't do a back to back because you don't want him injured when he's likely um your best, well, he is your best goaltender at the moment with Stolarz out. So I mean, it's pretty good to not play him on a back to back, because especially if you're a goaltender, you're out there for the majority of the game. You don't really want to be doing that. But yeah, I think Hildeby had a good performance overall, and I don't know, Stolarz is out for the next. I mean, let's just say hypothetically doesn't return until maybe just before the break in February, but also um the they do have the break in February. Maybe he returns before them, maybe he returns after. Again, the Leafs are at the top of the Atlantic Division. So I'm not sure if they have a lot to worry about. They're 4 points ahead of the Panthers at the moment. I mean, the Atlantic is pretty tight. Well, um, at least the first 7 points of the Atlantic are pretty tight. But I think with if Hildeby plays like he did tonight, if will plays like he has throughout the season, without the injuries, obviously. I think the Leafs net is it's in safe hands. Only beating Florida by 2 points. Did Florida just win? Am I looking at the wrong standings? In my standings, it says Florida's at 50 and the Leafs are at 54. Maybe it hasn't updated. Anyway, what was I gonna say? In other injury updates, I guess, Austin Matthews, after getting injured, going to Germany, returning, not looking the same, deciding he's still injured and, going out and staying out longer, which, you probably should have done in the first place, Austin. I'm not one to judge. He returns finally, looks back to form, a lot of hits. How many hits did he have last night? Because they had kind of like a collection. He was credited with 1 hit last night. I think that he had more. This is against the Bruins. Because he definitely had a more physical game, and yeah, so he looks like he's back to mostly top shape. He's credited with 3 hits tonight and a block shot. Wow. Jeez. He gets 2 assists as well, as he gets the assist on the Nyes goal, as well as the OT winner. Is Austin Matthews back, and how does this affect? Are the Leafs just gonna keep skyrocketing? Habs and Sens are scrappy so far. Yeah, I yesterday they were just like, oh yeah, the Habs are, 3 points back from a wild card spot. I'm like, sorry, like, okay, who knew? Who knew? And that the Sens are in the same wild card position that the Canucks are in right now, which it hurts a little bit, but also good for the Sens, but also why? Anyway, yeah, Austin Matthews, is he back? Obviously he's back in the lineup, but is he back? He gets the goal last night. Admittedly, yes, it's an empty net, but as my grandfather said when I told him, it's a goal. He's +5, which people don't like the plus minus. But he also got 2 assists last night, 4 points on the Panthers, and the Panthers have a game in hand. True. I forget about that. Yeah. Game in hand. It's so funny because that matters in the Atlantic versus there's almost the same, there's 13 points between 4th place and 1st place in the Pacific. There are 13 points between those two, and then there are 14 points between 5th place and 1st place in the, okay, that's different. Dalton Matthews should continue to play hurt. He should take the time to recover instead of trying to tough it out. Yeah, which I think is because he returned, I think he returned too quickly the last time. Yeah, I think he returned too quickly and then had to go back out again. I think he's closer to top form. I don't want to say he's completely recovered because obviously I'm not inside his brain or something. Yeah, I don't know if he's 100% recovered. He looked at least 85% to 90% recovered, so I think that's a good sign for the Leafs. Yeah, he's had in his 2 games back, he has 5 points. Didn't play for 2 games I saw, so then I missed my one Legion. Oh my god. You want him in bubble wrap until the playoffs. Honestly, fair. You want to, what's his name? Patrick Mahomes him? Because Patrick Mahomes wasn't playing for the Chiefs today, and the last time I saw it was 31-0 for the Broncos. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Austin Matthews, he's played 20 minutes, or he played 17 minutes last night, 20 minutes tonight. Gotta go, have a great night, go Leafs go. Heck yeah, brother. Yeah, he played 20 minutes tonight. I'm assuming some of that was over because of overtime. Um, but I think he's closer to being back. He's I mean, he is back, like I said, but he's closer to being 100% back. He's obviously not going to pot 69 goals, or get to 70 finally, but because, he missed a significant portion of the season. But I do think he's decently back to form. Which I think is a good thing for the Leafs, overall. Yeah, because, Nylander -2. Well, obviously he had the turnover on that one goal, and then, yeah. I think that's all I have to say about Matthews. I think he's back. He's pretty back. I don't think he's playing hurt anymore, based on just the everything that he's been doing, with just how physically he plays. I was so worried when he did the giant, like, lay down and lunge and reach for the empty netter last night against Pasternak, and I was just like, here we go again. And he came back on a back-to-back. He played 17 minutes last night, 20 minutes tonight on the second game of a back-to-back. And honestly, he got 2 points out of it as well. Played 29 shifts. The only forward that played more shifts was Mitch Marner, with 1 more shift. Marner also had 5 points last night, so makes sense why he played an extra couple minutes, looks like, but won't even mention the Nucks. Thank you. Yeah, I think with Matthews back at top form, I mean, the playoffs are still, it's only halfway through the season, like, officially, this is game 41, but I think the Leafs have a good chance at holding on to their first place, considering the slide that, I mean, Boston's in third, but still. I think it's just the tie between them and Florida. Who knows? Buffalo could go on a tear and win the next 42 games. It's not gonna happen, but it'd be really funny if it did. Alright, before we get into talking a bit about, just wanted to rap about the World Juniors, because I don't think I've spoken about that. Oh! They went to overtime? Okay. Um... So, okay. Anyway, before we get into that, Game Over has you covered after the game, but in order to get ready to watch the Leafs, you've got to get your game on too. Game On Toronto is a short-form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Hosted by Josh Ruckstuhl. Get all your Leafs news in under 10 minutes, Monday through Friday, on the Game Over Toronto YouTube channel, and in podcast form, which you can find at thegameovernetwork.com/pages/Toronto. Toronto. Alrighty. Let's talk some World Juniors. Barfalo? Oh my lord. Honestly, that's a good record for them. Oh! Did the US just win? Okay. I think the US just won. Yep. Right as I clicked on the page. Okay, the US just won the World Junior Championship. That was, yeah. Finland kind of gave up in the second there, with the States scoring 2 late goals. Nothing really happened in the third, and then the US wins in OT. So the United States, I think, wins their first back-to-back World Junior title. Yeah, first back-to-back World Junior title, I think, in history, so congrats to the United States. That hurts. Yeah, Finland gets silver. Czechia earlier today in a 14-round shootout, which is the longest in not even World Juniors history, but IIHF history. 14 rounds. Czechia takes it over Sweden. So Sweden once again goes without just a medal in general. They're they were undefeated in group play. Uh Maybe Canada's U18 women's team will do what the World Juniors team this month didn't. Well, yeah, because the women's U18 team has actual talented players on it, rather than the World Juniors, which I don't know what that roster construction was. They needed scoring, and then they got everybody who couldn't score. And yeah, I mean, Canada was a real head scratcher this tournament. Yeah, I wanted to pose a quick question, just in this little short third period segment, and then I'll go on to a bit of a Q&A thing. For those who watched Finland outshot the US in the first period 13-8. Anyway, for those who watched the Canadian games in the World Juniors, what was your opinion of them? B, I know he had a tough tournament. What was your thought about Easton Cowan as a Leafs prospect? Because I know he was getting a lot of flack. Yeah, he was getting a lot of criticism. Um, After the World Juniors, I mean, that whole team, let's be honest, sucked. But yeah, he was getting a lot of the blame for it. So just wanted to ask a Leaf opinion, because obviously, um, like I'm not really as experienced to comment on it, because obviously I was watching for Sweden, to be real, because the Canucks have stake in the game on there. The trending picture for Matthew Nyes, that Google has on right now is horrible. I'll just say that. He looks both like 14 and 32 at the same time. Respect, but also it did him dirty there. Um, anyway, just general thoughts on the play of your prospect, I'd say, in the tournament. I mean, if I talked about the Canucks prospects in Tom Wielander, who took the penalty in overtime that Finland scored on the power play for, to, yeah. Oh, Vicky Sunohara, head coach. Okay. I was wondering because they were doing a lot of hype for the IIHF Hall of Fame announcements, and I was just like, huh. I was like, why is there no like interviews or something with her? She's busy. Yeah. Uh yeah, she's a bit busy with the women's U18 tournament, which is understandable. But yeah, the World Juniors are over with the United States winning. They won in overtime against the only team that beat them, which was also in overtime. Um, in Finn, or no, was it Czechia? The tournament goes by too fast. Anyway, um, problems with Canada's World Junior team went beyond just Cowan. Yeah, I don't want to say he got the blame because he's the Leafs prospect, but like I think he got the blame placed on him by just people watching. He got I mean, he got Marnered. He got Pedersen. I don't know how else to explain it. He got, since the focus was on him, because I don't want to say he was the biggest name on the roster but there weren't a lot of other big names. Um, there was a lot of focus on him from the Toronto market just in general. Yeah, I think that's probably why he got the brunt of the criticism. Anyway, moving on to the moving on to our little overtime period here. I'm gonna talk a little bit about our Game Over merch. What better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalie design, or if you just need another coffee to get through the winter, we have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalis from Game Over Winnipeg, use the QR code on stream now and take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. Alrighty, there was a question. So from another fandom's perspective, do the Leafs seem like a legitimate threat or just another this is our year fever dream? Honestly, healthy, like completely healthy, I think they are a legitimate threat. They have a solid D core, they have solid depth, they have obviously offensive firepower in their forward group, and their depth can also score goals as well. Their goaltending is finally less of a question mark, and actually has like 2 very good goaltenders. Admittedly, Solars is I don't want to say quite injured right now, but there's something in his knee that's not supposed to be there. So he is injured. He's out. He's likely to return for the back half of the season. Well, not immediately, but sooner rather than later. Hopefully, for Leafs fans, I do think they count as a legitimate threat. It's just that when they get into the playoffs. So currently, as it stands, let's go to the wild card. The Washington Capitals are at the top of the East. That does not compute in the Washington Capitals, who got into the playoffs last season because Torts pulled the goalie in a different game. It's Leafs' reputation in the postseason to not score often enough that's hurt them. True. I don't know if it's a this is our year fever dream at this point, because like that's kind of been rattling on. The 2023 postseason, that was a wild time. And then they lost 5 games to Florida, who went on to go to the finals. So I mean, kind of makes sense. With the standings they're at right now, Toronto would play Tampa again in the first round. So, and Tampa, they're still, oh, I'm bad at math, 5 games back from the, why is Tampa just not played? That is so weird. Yeah, Tampa's still 5 games back. I could see them getting past them again, but also question mark. It really depends, because the Atlantic is, or just the Eastern Conference in general right now is so tight. Like, Montreal, yes, is a point back from a wildcard spot that the Sens have, but Columbus is also in there now. It's wild. Hockey is wild. Wow, New York is not doing. The state of New York is taking up the bottom 3 of the Eastern Conference right now. Jeez, that is bad. Anyway, I think they could be a legitimate threat. I think they do have the power to get past the first round again. It just really depends on A, who they play, B, how they play, and yeah, I think that's it. Just A and B. Simple. Simple as that. Do I think they win the cup? Who knows? They could. It would be really funny if they did, because, like, people would stop talking about it. But then it would be less funny because the next highest cup drought is it's a tie between Buffalo and Vancouver. So personally for me that wouldn't be great. It would be good for Leafs fans. It would be good for you guys. Not so much for me, because I don't want to have to think about that. And the entire country of Canada would be losing its like best joke. So yeah. 2023 postseason will remain the only one to feature a win of such series with that core five. I think it's also a different because they have their different coach this year. Yeah. They have Berube, and I think they've because of how much they've switched their game style, they're on a 4-game win streak. That's all they need to get through the postseason. So I don't know. I think there is a legitimate chance for the Leafs. But yeah, we'll just have to wait for when does the regular season end this year? It's like April something. I mean, it is usually April something, but I feel like I'm just going through the league scores right now so I can find no. Okay. The last day of play is April 17th. Saw someone say the Leafs don't deserve to win the cup, but the rest of the league deserves to have the Leafs win the cup. I'm trying to that makes sense, but also like it doesn't make sense to me in my brain. It could also just be me. Like the rest of you mean the rest of the league deserves to shut up about it? Cuz I understand. Yeah, the Leafs play their last game against the Red Wings on the 17th, and that's the end of the regular season. It's one of Are you kidding me? All the games on the last day of the regular season start at the exact same time. Because they're all Eastern games. That makes no sense. At least stagger it, or put them on a Saturday. I'm not even gonna think about it. The Leafs don't deserve to win the cup, but the rest of the league deserves to have the Leafs win the cup. Is it because Leafs fans stop complaining about it? Is it because everyone else stops complaining about it? Basically, the Leafs would be obnoxious about it, and everyone else deserves it because they're awful. Honestly, yeah, I think it would be pretty damn funny for that to finally happen. It would be cool, though. I think. I don't know. Yeah, but we will see. We'll see in June, I guess, when all that happens. Who knows if it's going to be a really late series? Probably not. It's Toronto. But yeah. Okay. I think that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you for joining me on this, admittedly, in this new experience, hosting Game Over Toronto. I'm Kaya. I'm usually on the Game Over Vancouver side of things, but filled in for tonight. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for being nice in the chat. I am not a genius when it comes to the Leafs, but I know the vague points because I pay attention to sports in Canada. You always hear stuff about the Leafs. Just a little jab. And yeah, good overtime win. Good hard fought back half of a back-to-back, and yeah. Thank you for watching. Have a good night, everybody. I'm a devoted Leafs fan now. I do have a Leafs jersey and a stuffed Carlton bear, but that's about as far as I'll go. Those are your hints. Just wait. All right. Thank you for joining me tonight. Hope you have a good rest of your. I mean, I'd say rest of your night, but it is literally almost 11 p.m. for you guys out on the East Coast. So just remember, like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do all that fun stuff. Thank you for joining me. Peace out.